call to order, City of Forest Park, council work session for April 12, 2021. The first item on the agenda is establishing new funds for federal funding. A 1 and a 2, that would be, I'm sure, Councilwoman Herbie and the finance director.
Well, as most of us were on, not all of us, but most of us were on for the Ways and Means Committee meeting immediately preceding this. And new rules and regulations require federal funds to be separated out from county and state funds. And so and as a result, what we have to do is create 2 new funds in our budget. Well, in our budget, the Federal Law Enforcement Trust, because there are certain monies that come from the federal government to our police department, and they have to be separated out from other grants and other monies that are coming from other entities like the state or the county. So the Federal Law Enforcement Trust Fund has to be set up. And then the American Rescue Plan, which is rolling out, those monies have to be separated out into a separate fund. So what this legislation would do is establish these 2 funds. Carly, do you got to add anything? Shake your head.
I think you covered it. Okay. I think you covered it very well.
Thank you.
Okay, any questions from anybody on the first item? Next item is annual note issuance. Same 2.
Okay. This is what was postponed from last week. And like I said last week, we do this every year. When the debt comes due, we during the course of the year we pay down the debt, and then we have to take the balances and combine them and go out and reissue the debt again. What Harlita had said is that we had a pretty good year in terms of not doing a lot of things that in terms of needing to create debt. And so we were able to pay down much more of our debt and be able to finance much more of our debt this year. So instead of about 700,000, we're able to pay down about 1.3 or 1.4 million. And what we'll do is one of those notes is completely paid off. The others are paid down. What we'll do is pay those down, reissue them and combine them and go out on the balance.
Yes. And if you review my cover memo, it will show you what pieces of debt are completely paid off, what purposes are completely done, and which ones are being carried into a new note. But we are taking our note down by over 1/3 of its balance.
And actually, this is what we would have done last week, but apparently our bond counselors looked at the wording, and they had some suggestions about a little better wording, and that's what really caused, I think, the delay to act on this next week.
What caused the delay was we are participating in the state OMAP program, and that stands for Ohio Market Access Program. So the state of Ohio is supporting us and enhancing our credit and going with us in the marketplace to help us reduce our issuance costs and to help us get a lower rate of interest on the debt, which saves us money. So we delayed it to apply for that program. We did participate and were successful in lowering our debt last year. And we're hoping to do the same thing this year.
Any questions or comments on that one? Moving into debt policy update.
And again, this is a repetition for people who were in the earlier meeting. What Carlita said is what they try to do in their department is review their policy, review a different policy maybe every year. And so this year they looked at reviewing the debt policy, and they have a revision that they are presenting to us in legislation. You should have it in your packet as Exhibit A. And there were two major changes that they wanted to make. One of them is to enable the city to be able to issue what's called conduit debt, which is giving our good faith and credit to go out to issue or have debt issued on behalf of developers. We encourage, she said, no liability, but it gives them a better opportunity to get debt at more reasonable costs. And there are all sorts of fees associated with it. So one of the things they also wanted to be able to do, in addition to be able to issuing that kind of debt, is to be able to charge fees for the various components that we have that are costs to us in doing that. The other two things are to also expand and give us other options than short-term notes in terms of issuing commercial paper or also lines of credit. And so those you should see in your debt policy listed as either in bold for additions, I guess, strikeouts, if they're going to strike anything out.
I don't think we struck out anything. I think
Yeah,
it's
just
all
add.
bold and italics, and it's primarily pages 4 and 6 of the policy.
And that would be that. So any
Questions?
question, I would say address them too hardly.
Questions or comments? Seeing no one, hearing none. The other two items are below the line. Mr. Brown has a liquor license request, and I think that's Spring Hill. That would be that motel, I believe.
Okay.
Then there's the reappropriation ordinance. So unless anybody's got any questions on those, and as Mr. Brown would note, I'm sure he'll state next week, keep in mind that we don't really have much option unless we're going to appeal, and we don't win appeals when it comes to liquor license. I see that Mr. Anderson is here with us. We'll hear from him. Mr. Anderson, if you would unmute yourself, Chris. Hello, Chris.
Unmuted. Okay.
Okay. First and foremost, I want to thank you and Don or whoever else was involved in that. I was by the corner of Mill and Waycross, and they were hauling away the debris there, the trash, and it obviously it looks much better than it did with the trash there. So thanks for taking care of that one. So we'll at this point we'll have you add anything else or tell us anything else you want us to know.
I have some pictures if you'd like to see those.
Hey, we can look.
Okay, let me cue it up here and hopefully the screen share works. Share screen. Oh, I'm not.
Because
enabled on
Waycross, you might have to give him permission to screen share.
screen.
Yeah, just one moment, please.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Sorry, I should have given you a heads up. Aside from that, the other property that that had been vacant property that had been dumped on was the Steak and Shake, former Steak and Shake at Omniplex.
Yeah.
And that also has been cleaned up. And that one was even probably a little more difficult because it included a car.
It's open for you.
Had been abandoned there. Okay, thank you. All right. This is before it VXI at Waycross and Mill, Waycross and Mill. And then after, that's the side driveway. This is the back of the property, back corner of the property, where we had dumping there and there. And then that area all cleaned up. So, okay.
Chris, what are they going to do to prevent people from being able to get in there to dump stuff?
We are going to barricade the driveways. And that has been fairly effective on other properties.
Mr. Anderson, I have a question regarding on Northland, right up next to the post office, that office building, there's a bunch of glass windows broken. How can we address that? It's very visible when you're driving up Northland. It's right next to the post office, that huge.
Yeah, the 6-story building.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a violation. It's whether the glass is broken or the window is boarded, either way. It's actually a 30-day notice, but we do require that they replace glass with glass. So, but I'll look into that, where that is, and I'll update the city manager on that.
Is that building still occupied?
No, sir. They're right now studying other options for the building other than office. They're looking into a possibility of senior housing, which we would have to agree to through zoning, but it looks like that it would be a substantial investment in the property if they did go in that direction. So we'll see.
Something right now.
Yeah, two things. First, I know the city manager had mentioned at the last meeting that we were looking at, in the process of going through and looking at the various codes that are out there. Some needs to be updated, obviously. Some needs to be just done away with altogether. And others that are on the books, we need to see if we can find some ways of enforcing them, with the understanding that there are going to be some that are almost impossible to enforce. Secondly, in terms of that building on Northland, in terms of it becoming a senior citizens residency, I would strongly urge us to take a long, serious, hard look at that in light of past senior residences that we've had and the obviously ensuing problems. Just one of the things that I know we're going to need to look at from the perspective of the EMT fire department. When we open a center like that, when there is a place like that, the number of calls for assistance goes up extremely rapidly and extremely high. That's not to say that they're all illegitimate, but it is to say that unfortunately, there's a tendency to use the EMT service in place of people going for their regular doctor visits, getting their prescriptions filled at hospitals, all of those kind of things based on past practice, we know are going to happen. So whatever the developer or the owner of that property does with that or decides to do with that, we need to make sure that when they come to us for the approval, whether it's a variance, special exception, or what, we're going to have to sew this up as tightly as possible because it becomes a tremendous expense. I see Harlita's gone, but Don would know as well. The drain on manpower is astronomical. And like I said, it's because, and I understand, I'm very, 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 very rapidly approaching that age myself. So I know why they do what they do. But at the same time, I also know what that strain is. Mr. Anderson, I think I saw your hand.
No, I just said me too, as far as getting older.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that you remember with the planning commission, that was also the same issue we had with the adult daycare.
Right.
Essentially, it boiled down to that it was a bigger service burden than anything that it would be contributing.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the owners of those places don't look at it from that point of view.
How many stories does that building have? Is it
6?
6?
6.
6.
Councilwoman Moore.
I think we're missing the big picture though. If our fire and police are getting calls, we have to look at the services that are provided for the residents. So that's very important. And so also we have to make sure that our residents are connected to some of the county services, some of the federal services. And so that just lets us know that our residents need more services than we are giving them. And so I think that's something that we really have to look at as a city, making sure that we are connecting our residents to those services and providing those services in the community so our residents don't have to go outside of the community to get these services. So we really do need to look at that if it's been a problem. And so just looking at a different lens on how to solve that issue, as opposed to not allowing that mixed use of land. And so I just wanted to say that we really do need to look at ensuring that county dollars are filtered into our community for services for our residents.
Yeah, I will, if you want to, I can expand on that a little bit. We are, at the last meeting, we did talk, and the mayor was absolutely correct. We've talked about our enforcement, or 4E program, as we called it, our enforcement, our education, enforcement, engagement, and enhancement program. But the parts that really need to be looked at, the whole in the whole system, is the education engagement. Make sure that we're educating our community, educating our folks about, so that we can take pride in our community. I don't want to take too much time, but we did hear you, and we did. We are doing a lot of things here at the city, basically because the city council's appropriated the money to do them. We do take great pride in trying to provide great services, but obviously there's some things that we can do better. And but in any event, we do have some things on the horizon. Getting to what Councilor Moore just said, is that last year we looked at funding a position in the fire department that was a community health specialist. And we've just had that conversation to bring that back up and to begin the search for that. So you'll be hearing about that very shortly. But we've put together our group, our working committee, and in terms of opening up the city and bringing back services, we're looking at lessons learned, and trying to say, hey, what could we do better? Where were the holes when the pandemic hit? What are the things that we need to do? And what did the pandemic bring to light that we might want to learn from into the future? So that's one of the positions, is that the fact that we were at the mercy of the county, and we still are, and from a public health standpoint. And so we're looking to bring on some public health professional and expert to run out of to do much of the things that Jermaine's doing. Not only is that a position we need, because we've seen what happens when you don't pay attention to those things. Or we not pay attention to, we pay attention to them, but we see what we can do better, and we think we can do it better internally. But in any event, it's also a succession planning, because a lot of the things that Jermaine's doing in terms of community outreach and talking to the community and bringing forth all of the healthcare issues, which are actually, he's beginning his workout programs. A Zuma class will be this Sunday, so you hear something about it this week. So, but anyway, some of the things that he's doing as the fire department evolves, and he takes, and Alfie is, eventually going to retire. A lot of the things that Jermaine does need to be transitioned over. And so we're setting that up right now to get that transition in place, and using some of those COVID funds to provide that healthcare professional right here in the city. Additionally, we're adding, we refunded that third position. We had 3 part-time inspectors, and one of them had to quit during COVID, and we never replaced him. And now that we're getting ready to open the city back up again, we we have a priority here to make sure that we have a clean, effective place where people take pride in where they live. And in order to get that pride and maintain that pride, we have to do our part as a city, which means we have to pick up our pieces of the pie. Our property needs to be an example to the rest of the community. And so we are adding more public works folks and rescheduling them so that we can make sure that they're there on the weekends, so that the garbage gets picked up in the park and so forth. Now, they've always done this, but we want to add 1 or 2 folks to make sure that it gets done on a more regular basis, and then we have more bodies available. And also we're adding that again back to the inspector, the code inspector that we were talking about earlier. That's a 3rd position that makes us brings us back up to full complement where we had before. But we've also seen, if as part of looking at some of the issues that we face as a community, if it's the enforcement part or the enhancement part, a lot of it has to do with, obviously with our properties. And so we implemented over the last couple of years, or over the last year, and City Council approved it, where we have the vacant property listing. It's a managed website where we're requiring folks to list their property if they're vacant. We have our real estate owned and our foreclosure listings as well. Those are requirement. We're getting ready to roll out an improved rental registration program. Again, that'll provide access to to funding that will support itself in the ability for an inspector to go out and manage those properties and inspect them properly and make sure that they're up to speed. So we're trying to be forward thinking in some of those things. And we've also just recently, as part again reopening the city, we're going to a new proper code enforcement and permit management system that is online. It's cloud-based, but essentially it's going to make us more efficient. It's almost going to be straight through processing in terms of the way we handle our code enforcement and our permits. But it will also allow a portal for the public to make complaints and to report things, because we can't do it by ourselves. We have to have all the people. Everyone has to help. We need the help of our engagement special folks. We need to engage the public. We need to educate the public, and we need their help and to bring forth any kind of changes that we're going to have. So that's kind of the bigger
Mr.
picture.
Jones, I
Sure.
think that the community does reach out, and they do
They do.
I know they let council know. They text us, they call us, so they do let us know about things that are going on in the community, but things just aren't taken care of. And so, so I do want to acknowledge the residents who do care about the community, who are prideful, who make complaints, and who go through the proper channels, and some things don't get done. And so, so I do think that they do engage in trying to make sure the community looks nice. And it goes back to taking pride in our community. I know we're turning 60 this year. We were founded in 1961. And so this is a big time to bring the community together, do some type of engaging the community to let them know that, hey, we're 60 this year, trying to spark that pride and spark that community engagement, and just making sure that we acknowledge how important they are to our community. And so, but they do make comments, and they do complain, and they do call in, and they get very limited results sometimes. And so I don't want us to think that they aren't trying to make changes for the community and want better things for the community. And
Sure.
And so we got a lot of work to do regarding the aesthetics of our community, and getting back to services. Not that we're not providing service. I'm just saying that we need different types of services, especially when we're looking at social determinants of health. That's our parks, and that's transportation and preparing for the future regarding transportation, and it's looking at the economics of our community. And so that impacts the health and wellness of our community. And so I think that we need to take some time and have a special meeting so we can sit and have these conversations regarding those social determinants of health, and how do we meet those, and how do we decrease our runs, our fire runs, and but that takes us looking at the social determinants of health and the unmet needs of the community to solve those solutions. And so I think it's bigger than bringing back some of the services that we may have had in the past. It's looking at finding services outside our boundaries and bringing them inside the city. And then you'll see some changes regarding those runs that our police officers are making, our fire departments making, or those social needs that can be met. The community liaison that you're thinking about, looking at public health more seriously than we've had in the past. We've relied on support from outside resources, and we may need to be internal and look internally to solve some of our issues or meet some of our residents' needs internally. So
I agree 100%. Yeah, I wasn't trying to say that that the citizens aren't engaged. We have a very engaged community, and but I want to make sure that I think there's other avenues for us to continue that engagement, whether it's social media, through the churches, through other ways, and branding our community. Quality of life issues aren't just trash on the streets. It's attention to detail. It's the little things. In fact, this is kind of the program we're starting to talk. It's the little things that matter. It's painting that bench. It's painting that sign. It's looking to rebrand ourselves and our community, and then be, absolutely relentless in the positive messaging that we put out, so that people have a good pride of place, or pride in place, as we're calling our new messaging. It's whether it's pride in place from the folks that live here, or pride in place from the folks that work here or just pass through here. We need to make sure that everyone has that. And I think we've got a good start. And I agree with you. There are different ways to provide services and things to look at. And I can say that, when we think of enhancement to the community, and we're thinking about streets, the value of a new street in terms of how that affects a neighborhood and the way they interact. Activities that communities and neighborhoods can do, like pop-up parks and pop-up parties and things like that, neighborhood block parties that were going on before COVID hit. We started that. It gives everybody a sense of pride and a sense of ownership, and tries to engage people. But it's number one thing that we're doing. And economic development, providing people a place to work, and having good jobs and good zoning that says, we want these good jobs, but we're also going to make sure that we don't put them in the wrong spot, because we care about the people that live in our neighborhoods, and we care about the environment, and we have a history of that. So it all intertwines together, and we're looking at it as a big picture. And this is the first conversation of many. Like you said, we are going to have and revision and repurpose some of the things that we've been doing, and some of the way we do business, as we begin to reopen the city and look at where we're going from this point forward. You did mention it is the 60th birthday. We do have Rebecca and Jay. They're looking into beginning a celebration, some sort of celebration that would call attention to the 60th anniversary of our city. And so we look at that as kind of a way, again, to engage the community and move forward. So I think this is just the first step toward this visioning process.
Any more comments from anybody else at this point? Good.
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
just got a
Brown.
question. Oh, okay.
Brown first.
Councilwoman Holt, you can go. Excuse me.
No, I just had a question. I heard that the school is being used as a church on Sunday. Is that anybody else hear that?
I've
I
never heard of
believe
that.
that's happened for a long, been happening for a long, long time.
Oh,
Yeah, they've had a church in there for years.
Really?
Something new. Yeah,
The new building?
Yeah.
the old building. Yeah.
Well, it's been in various buildings around the community for a number of years. I know at one point it was over at when Forest. I think at one point they had, maybe not the same church. There was one that was operating out of the Waycross School, and I know that they were at the high school some years ago. The old building, obviously, some years ago. I don't know if that same group is now uh, operating from the new building. I know that although the students are in the new building, there are still some activities taking place in the old. So I have no answer for that, and frankly, I stay out of that because I don't want people. They confuse us with what's going on at the school anyway. That's that's their thing.
No, I was just curious because most of our taxes go, our property tax go to support the school, not the
Right.
church. So, you know,
Good question. Yeah, good point. Good point. But like I said, I know that it needs to spend. They've done it for years. Now I don't know what all of the. I'm assuming. I could assume. I should say that. They're doing it on a rental basis. I doubt very seriously if those places are being allowed to do that for free.
Mhm.
Mr. Brown, did you want to
Yeah.
have a comment?
Yeah, really quick. I mean, that was interesting. I imagine we probably, I don't know if there's protocols, but yeah, I guess the school board would handle that. But really quick, as far as code enforcement, a number of residents have come to me and said that around Smiley and around Havensport and Hamden, there are people parking at the stop sign, like just parking and leaving their car there. Is there any effort by the city to go out and start, enforcing the code again? Because not only that, they're blocking driveways, but primarily they were saying that people are parking immediately at the corner and it's difficult to see as they, try to transition to the next street or something.
I know
yes.
that in the past we have had, when we've had those complaints, it's a matter of distance.
Mm.
We've had some situations where we've had to go out. I can give you a quick example. I believe it's right. It's the street that comes out of the drive from the school building when you cross Waycross. We've had to paint some yellow curbs because
Yeah.
of people parking too close. But again, that it becomes a matter of distance. In terms of code and law, there is nothing there, to my knowledge now, and Chris may know this or Don, that
Okay.
says, because see, if you think about where the stop signs are at the legal place. So if you don't park in front of the stop sign, technically you're legally parked. Now, unless we make a change in that code and say you can't park here, you can't park there. Now, when we've done it based on a safety issue. Sometimes it's not even a car park. I can remember instances where we've had to have bushes cut down because they grow so big, they're too close, and people couldn't see out around it. But I know both the police and property maintenance have dealt with those on an individual basis because each situation is different. The
Okay.
other piece of that is when they're parking there, more often than not, you're talking about after dark at night.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that those things shouldn't be enforced if they're violations of the code. So the fact that we are reviewing the city administration is reviewing codes, that would be one that they would look at. But
Okay.
as of now, if they're parked legally, while we don't like it, we can't cite them. It's a matter of, do we make it illegal?
We had this discussion actually today.
This morning, yeah.
Yeah, this morning. And I was trying to find the email. Police Chief Arns had sent me an email with regards to some of that information. And but in any event, he told us it was 10 feet from the sign. You had to be back. And we're reviewing, again, as you said, Mr. Mayor, we are reviewing the whether or not that's appropriate distance. That's a state law. We can actually make it a little backward. And I like the idea of actually kind of painting, if need be, some yellow curbing to make sure we're people, so that
Yeah,
people actually
that's
know
what the
how far
residents were
back they
asking.
need to be.
If the city was gonna paint, and that's probably what I was gonna suggest as well.
Yeah, it depends on the, really on the street, but
Mhm.
I think we can look at that. Well, I know we're looking at it right now. There was, actually Sally brought it to our attention today, and we were, I know the police have an answer for her particular, street. But we've noticed that it is, lots of folks have noticed, even, Alfie, myself have noticed that it is not only, in the C section where I live and others in around where Alfie lives, it's also become prevalent. It seems like there's just more cars and they're pushing up right up against the curb, right up against the, and if there's a car parked there, right up against the intersection, and then another car comes down, there's only two lanes, and if you're trying to turn, you can't turn.
You can
So
turn
you're
it off.
stuck. But particularly on a busy street like maybe Kemper, if you're trying to turn off a Kemper and all of a sudden you can't get, you're sitting in the middle of Kemper, that's very dangerous. So we recognize it. It's one of the ordinances we're looking at in
Okay.
terms of ways, again, to make it, quality of life type ordinances are all under review, and as well as the fees and the penalty structures as well. We want to make sure that we get the bad apples. If we have the frequent flyers, people just continue to cause headaches to their neighbors.
Right.
That there's a escalation of fees because it can't be cheaper not to comply than it is to comply. And in some cases, that's the case. And we need to, like Chris says, there's things that we need to look at. That's a 30 days to look at windows. Is there something we can do to increase that? But essentially, everything we're looking at, we're looking at all these ordinances and all the fee schedules to so that we'll have a better tool belt to use in terms of making this community a better place to live.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else from anybody else?
I just
Councilwoman
had
Urquhart.
one quick comment. We were talking about the little things, and our residents are very engaged. So last month when we had one of our men from our community get sworn in, I think it'd be kind, and I think we just need to always stay mindful of how that interaction that we play with our residents, coming and taking those steps forward to volunteer their time and lend their expertise, it really means a lot to them. It's very important to them to serve their community in that way, and they talk about it. They get ready to announce it to people, and they're very proud of that. And I just want to make sure that we echo our congratulations and our encouragement and appreciation for the volunteerism that they're doing. So we did not, I didn't, make a comment, but they really want to hear that feedback from us. They want to hear that, hey, thank you so much for stepping up and being part of this work. Also, we had a young lady that received an award, and we just want to make sure that we are acknowledging people, because it takes a lot for them, and it's a big deal for them to come out of their comfort zones and then, serve our community or be acknowledged for something. And we just want to make sure they feel it's an extension of family.
Councilwoman Urban.
Did you want me to share my crazy random code enforcement idea, Chuck?
If you can do it very briefly.
From time to time, we go crazy over certain codes, and we have our police or our property maintenance people enforce them. And then we do it for 2 weeks and then it kind of stops. My idea was that, for example, we give to the police 6 issues that we want them to be cognizant of, and they put it on their visor. And at the beginning of their shift, they roll a die. And whatever number comes up, that's the thing that they're going to look at that day. They're going to be especially conscious of that day. That causes randomness because it's different for every car. It's different for every shift. And people won't get into the habit of saying, well, oh, they're just targeting this 2 weeks. And then I can go back to doing my usual after the 2 weeks is up and the thing is up. This is just going on all the time. There's one issue that they're going to really focus on. That car is going to focus on for that shift. Somebody else is going to roll a die and they may be focusing on a different thing. But we're looking at the little things. We're looking at, but you're not making them look at all 6 things at one time. You're making them look at just one thing that day. That's my crazy idea.
That's not so crazy.
Okay, also, just one thing I would say to wrap this up and end this. I think we have a lot of good ideas here. I think we need to follow up on them, but I will issue one word of caution because it's going to happen. It always happens. People tend to look at change, especially when governments make change, in terms of not necessarily, they don't see it the way we see it. I guarantee you, when we start enforcing these things, people are going to look at it as a money grab. But that's not the issue, and that's not the case. Again, I go back to when we started doing the grass dye. We made it perfectly clear we aren't doing this to make money because you don't. We know that you don't make any money of it, but they don't know that, and you can't convince them of that. All I'm saying is be prepared for people to say to you, the city's just trying to make money on us. Just be prepared to hear that. Don't let that come as a surprise to you. And don't, we can't stop doing what needs to be done because people are going to stay there. It's a little bit like, and everybody who's ever been on council or lived in this community, the one thing you've heard constantly, which is not true, is how high Forest Park taxes are. No matter how often we sit down and we go through that and show that to people, even on paper, you won't change anybody's mind and people are going to continue to say it. So just be ready to live with it.
Yeah.
Can I just ask one more question of Don? And I'll be quick. Don, is Gaylord still on your radar? Because we're still getting people now that it's getting warm and COVID is going to let up. They're still flying through here, leaving their garbage in our neighborhood.
Yeah.
But Gaylord, we were talking about blocking that entrance off or making it a one-way or whatever. Is that still on your radar? I
was up there the other day. We'll have that discussion. It is on my radar. If we can do it, I'd be happy to do it. But it should be it'll have to be one way. Can't be totally blocked.
Why?
I think there's only one fire exit entrance to that place, and you have to
see. I've heard that before, but if you go in a circle, how many ways in and how many ways out? One.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay. Anything else from anybody else for the good of the order?
I have one other.
Go ahead, Reggie.
I just wanted to have a comment in regards to the cleanliness around the city. Does the city post trash cans along where we have some of the bus stops?
We haven't. We actually
needs to be improved.
Yeah, we actually have a grant request in that we're getting ready to turn in. It's all prepared, and Councilperson Clark is on the sorter board or whatever. It's still sorted, isn't it? I guess it is.
Yes, it is.
I wasn't sure if they changed the name or not, but anyway, we are ready. We have a grant application in for improvement of various within various locations where the bus stops are, whether it's the bus stop, the facility, the cover, whatever those things are called, the bus, I call them the bus stop. But anyway, and the bench in there, as well as the garbage cans. So that'll be in our application. So we're kind of waiting to see if we get that once they open the grant application process. And if we do get that, obviously that'll pay for all of those. If we don't, we'll definitely have our own garbage cans there. And we've just got some quotes. I was looking at them actually right now from Steve with regards to garbage cans that we're going to place strategically through the city and the, down Kemper and various areas. We're also putting them around the basketball courts and just attempt to try and collect some of that garbage that's not on the ground. We can't make people put it in, but we're going to give them the opportunity to throw it away.
Don, I know that in the past, when we have had receptacles in the parks, that Wright has given funds from the environmental so that those are made from recyclable materials.
Yeah, we have some quotes for those, and we have some
Yeah.
quotes from the from more decorative ones for the city, for like the Linton and Kemper areas. But yes, they're very expensive. And
Yeah, and I think that we try to do something that will help bridge that gap between the normal cost and the more expensive cost for the recyclables. So talk to Wright about that.
yes, he's in the group that's picking the garbage cans, and so we definitely need more of them. I mean, even as we look at again reopening the city and seeing what we're looking at, there's a need in the parks and a need in around the basketball courts in various areas where we need more garbage cans and they need to be placed differently, and signage needs to be increased so that people can know where they're at and see them, and so we're looking at signage, we're looking at cans, we're looking at all kinds of things, but then we don't want to have sign pollution either. So
those placements were all strategically laid out in the grant, in terms of being mindful of traffic flow and places that were more populated and even positioned from curb to grass and stuff like that. So it's very nicely laid out.
Yeah, we have it ready to go. We just have to turn it in.
Before we leave, one, the benches. I've been asking for benches for 3 years, pre-COVID. And the reason why I'm asking for benches, because our residents deserve to sit on nice things when they're going to work. And when they're getting off the bus, they want to be able to sit their things down, collect their belongings, so they make their journey to the home. And so the benches throughout our community,
they are coming.
They are terrible. And
they are coming, the new ones.
And especially, say, for example, the metro's coming through our community, they open up, especially on on Kemper in Hanover, guests are coming through our community. And so they're looking at, our stops. And when we have benches in disarray and disrepair, and like I said, I've been pushing for 3 years. They did repair one on Waycross in Sharon, and by the time summer was over, it still looked the same. They did kind of like a Band-Aid paint job. And so making sure our employees take pride in our community and giving us equipment and resources for our residents to move about the community. And also, I think we really need to have a special meeting, because I think council, we have a lot that we need to discuss. And so I think, Mr. Mayor, is there any way we can have like a special meeting where we can really sit down and give our priorities for how we want the community to look and the vision of the community? And I think we haven't had a chance to do that in a long time. And I think that's needed.
Well, part of the reason is that's done in work sessions with the city manager, and we haven't done live work sessions, but there's nothing to say that we can't do it virtually if need be. If we're doing it sooner, or if we're doing it later, it could be done in person, but that would be the appropriate place to do it. And we've also used Fifth Mondays occasionally for what we call special meetings. I don't know when the next Fifth Monday is, but if it's that far,
we just missed one.
But we can't go backwards.
No, I know.
Okay, anything else for the good of the order?
Last week on Friday, on behalf of us from council, we gave the
Okay.
Last week on Friday, on behalf of us council members, we adorned the police officers with some donuts and about 50 assorted donuts, 48 things, something like that, for their CALIA accreditation. So I took those over there on Friday. They were very happy.
I saw the thank you email they sent out.
Yeah.
That was nice.
Okay, anything else? Going once, twice? Nothing else? Meeting is adjourned. Everybody be safe. See you next time.
All right.